So thank you all. Thank you, Laurel. Thank you all so much for being here. I want to make sure everyone is in the right room. We're going to be going over intermediate level journey to success. So that is journey to success 3 through 7. Right room? All right, perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get started on the presentation. Having trouble with chairs. There we go. Okay, share screen. Can everyone on Zoom hear me okay? Perfect. Yes. Okay, great. Okay. So like I said, my name is Hannah Gerbeschacht. I'm the Director of Volunteering Community Programs at Literacy Pittsburgh. Today, we're going to be talking about intermediate level journey to success, using the newly created lesson plans, how you might adapt them for your students, so on and so forth. So these are the goals for our presentation today. So we're going to go over the textbook itself. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the textbook. So the goal is effectively using the Journey to Success book series, accessing the support materials that accompany it, and simplifying your lesson planning process through the use of these newly created lesson plans. So I have some warm-up questions. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for a second, just so we can see everybody. So my first question is, how many of you are currently using Journey to Success, level 3 through 7? I see one hand, two hands. I see one on the screen, two on the screen. If you don't have your camera on, that's fine. You can just do like a thumbs up or a raise hand. Okay, so most people, yes. Some people, no. That's no problem. And then my second question is, how long do you usually spend lesson planning? So who spends less than 30 minutes lesson planning? All right, I see one hand. I see 2 hands. How about who spends between 30 and 60 minutes lesson planning? 1, 2, I see another one on the screen, another one on the screen, okay. How about, does anybody spend more than an hour lesson planning for every lesson? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, okay. So our goal is to simplify lesson planning for you. So especially if you're using the Journey to Success book series, you can modify these lessons to best suit your students, but our goal is that you won't have to spend all that time lesson planning for your students. So I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to do another warm-up activity. Has anybody ever used Slido before? All right, Laurel has, cool. All right, so Slido is, if you're going to have to take out your smartphones. If you don't have one with you, that's okay. I can pull it out and do it myself. People at home, pull out your phone if you can. You're going to be answering some questions on your phone, and then it's going to show it on the screen for everybody. So let me go to the next slide. All right. So if you can either scan this QR code at the top of the screen, or you can go to slido.com, and then you're going to have to enter this digit code 433972. And it's going to allow you to answer these questions on your phone. I'm going to do it too. And this is a really like fun thing to do in your classes if you're doing virtually, if you have a group. So make note of it. So 433972. So you can see our first question is on a scale of 1 to 10. What would you rate your satisfaction with Journey to Success? I'm going to give this one another couple minutes for people still answering. Laurel, do you know how to make this go away? I feel like usually it does it itself.
I think I don't have it on mine.
That's fine. It's good. It's okay. All right. So I think I think that's enough time for this question. So I'm happy to see that everyone is generally pretty happy with Journey to Success. 7s and 8s, I mean, that's an okay score. So I'm glad to see that. So the next question I have, so this is going to be like a word cloud. So what one word would you use to describe Journey to Success? So it's like your experience using it, your students' experience using it. If you could think of one word, what would you type? Okay. So I see comprehensive, fluency, boring, tedious, supportive, elementary. I think appropriate. Okay, cool. I'm really interested. If this is you, you don't have to answer, but I'm really interested that it got ratings of 7 and 8 stars out of 10, which I view as okay, but also things like tedious and boring. It's an interesting, like, I mean, I guess it could be both.
I think the content, like the stories are good.
Okay.
But, and I'm not an educator, but I can't, it's really hard to go through the steps that they make you go through.
Okay.
So I'm always frustrated with that.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very repetitive book. And we'll be talking about that in just a minute. So I'm not surprised to hear that it can be tedious. But the goal of it is to build skills in a way that you're scaffolding them, that students get more and more comfortable with the same sort of skills. We'll be talking about that. I understand it can be tedious. All right, the final question I have is, what do you like about the book and what do you dislike? So this is something you can just put as much text or as little text as you want into your phone. So yeah. I see, I like the stories. They match with the GED. You like the instruction at the beginning, relevant topics, easy for students to understand. Good use of vocabulary, interesting articles, links to reading. All right. So thank you everyone for participating in this. Again, this is called Slido. So use of vocabulary, scaffolding. This is great. Thank you everyone so much. So again, this is called Slido. If you are teaching online, this is something that you can do with your students. There's multiple choice questions. Like I said, there's the word cloud. So this is something, if you make a free account, you can do 3 questions at a time like we did today. So keep that in mind for your lessons. It's a fun interactive activity that you can do. All right, so we're going to get into
to be on a smartphone.
Answering it can be on a smartphone or on a computer.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be on either. All right, so we're going to get into the textbook itself. So I saw most people were using the textbook, but not everybody. So we're just going to dig into a little bit of information about the textbook, an overview, the different unit organizations, the skills in the book. All right, so quick overview. Who uses this book series? It is primarily for our students who are on a path to a high school equivalency. So they are working on reading and writing skills in order to improve those skills, in order to eventually obtain a GED or a HiSET test. So that is the first category of students that are typically using this book at this level, so the intermediate level. We also offer it for our high-level ELL students, our English language learner students that can speak at a quite high level, but they want to improve their reading skills. Maybe they would like to eventually, go to school in the United States, or they just generally want to work on their reading and writing skills. and learn about the United States. I mean, there's a lot of like articles that are relevant, as you said, that are helpful for ELL students. We also hear from our ELL students that have school-age children that these articles are really helpful because it gives them some background about what their children might be learning in school as well. So the way that this book is separated is into 4 units. And these units are the same in all of the books, level 3 through 7. So the first unit is always work and life skills. So these are reading selections that address everyday topics that are relevant in the lives of adult learners. Social studies and science are contextualized readings of academic content. This is especially helpful for our students that are on path to an HSE, a high school equivalency. And then the final unit is always literature. So these are adapted from original works. Some of them are 2 different short stories or poems, or sometimes the 2 readings are part of the same larger reading, just 2 different excerpts. So I talked about scaffolding skills and recycling skills. So each of these books teach reading skills, reading strategies, and writing skills. So these skills are repeated both within the same book. So like Journey to Success 6 might have the same skills repeated throughout it, as well as from level to level, similar skills can be found in these books. They just get a little bit more difficult over time, so they're improving their skills. So some examples of reading strategies that students might go over are things like taking notes as they're reading, making connections, and predicting before they read what they think is going to happen based on the title and the pictures and the charts or whatever they see. Some examples of the reading skills that are in this book include making inferences, identifying main idea in details, and synthesizing information. And then some examples of the writing skills that are in this book include writing some summaries, writing an informational text, as well as a personal narrative. These are just some examples. There's a lot of other skills that that are in this book series. So this is something that I took from the publisher itself, which is New Readers Press, I believe, is who makes Journey to Success. Thank you, Laurel. So this is something I took from the publisher itself. I'm not going to go over all of this information that's in the blue. However, this is really helpful information, and when we send out the PowerPoint later on, it might be good for you to look through this. So this is just a breakdown of the lessons and what you can find. So the first 2 pages of a lesson are always vocabulary. So it is learning new words. There are a lot of like reproducible materials that they can like rate their knowledge of vocabulary words, as well as practice writing them in a sentence, so on. So the first 2 pages are always vocabulary. The next page is always the first reading. So it includes going over the pre-reading skills and the reading strategy, as well as actually reading the first reading that is in the book. The next page is reading comprehension, and as I said, a scaffold of those reading skills that they went over. So another time to practice those reading skills that they did on the first page of the reading. The next 2 pages are the next reading in the book. So in one lesson, there's reading 1, reading 2, and writing. So this is reading 2. So in reading 2, it's going to be the same focus for the pre-reading skills. So whether that's, predicting or whatever it was, it's going to be the same focus. If it's a nonfiction, it's going to be the same theme. So for example, I know there's definitely one of the things that we're going to look at later today is careers in the 21st century. So one of the first reading is next steps in your education. And the second reading is the job skills for the future. So they're in the same theme in the same lesson. If it's fiction, it might be a second short story, as I mentioned, or it might be an excerpt from the same text. And then your reading skill that you're practicing is further developed in this section as well. The next 2 pages include additional comprehension and a vocabulary review. And then the final 2 pages include the writing. So this includes the writing type, whatever they're going to be practicing. There's always going to be some sort of graphic organizer first of like getting their thoughts together before they start writing. And then they actually write, and then they complete a checklist of those skills. Did I do this? Did I do this? So these next 2 pages are not part of the lesson itself. There's always a unit review at the end. So this includes an additional reading just to check, like, did they, like, the reading skills that they developed through the unit, like, how are they on them? Do they need to practice it more? The other thing is, what is it? The extra mini lessons, Laurel? I don't have my glasses. I should have worn my glasses. I think it's the mini lessons. Yes. So, so the other page is mini lessons. So for those who are using Journey to Success, has anyone used the mini lessons at the back of the book? No. All right. Mini lessons are great. So mini lessons can be found in the back of the book. In your book, it will say like mini lesson on page 135 or something like that. These are exactly what they sound like. They're mini lessons. They are usually a page or 2 to practice a particular skill. So I know one of them is like practicing like using commas, like things like that for writing. So those are in the back of the book. They're really helpful. Like again, you can pick and choose. Like if your student needs like a little bit of help in an extra topic, there might be a mini lesson in the back of the book.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't get to put my hand up because I was on.
Sure, no problem.
Video is off. This is Kelly. I have used those mini lessons in the back, and my students have actually asked me for more practice from what the mini lessons have done. Especially this week we did it's, your, there, and there. And they actually said to me, can you give us more things like this?
That's
So
great.
I just wanted to add that I've done them and they like them.
Yeah, that is so good to hear. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, those mini lessons are really, really helpful to add on to what you're already doing from Journey to Success. Oh, teacher's guide. So every book also has a teacher's guide. The teacher's guide has, helpful information about how to teach these skills that you're going over. And they also have reproducible materials you can use. So I'm going to go over those in just a second. So a little bit more about the teacher's guide. So at the beginning of the teacher's guide, there's always an introduction to the textbook series, as well as the specific level on page 5 through 8. It's really important to read it before you get started. It gives you just an idea of like what you should be focusing on with your students, how to best teach these skills. There also, as I mentioned, there's an explanation of each of the reading skills and reading strategies, and like, again, how to teach it, not just go do it. And there's the reproducible masters at the back of the teacher's book. This includes things that are like extra graphic organizers, a personal dictionary that students can like write the vocabulary that they're learning, common prefixes and suffixes, just like helpful extra information. So these are some examples of some of the reproducible masters. So here's a graphic organizer that you can find at the back of the teacher's guide. They can rate their vocabulary knowledge. So like this is something you could do as an activity on the first 2 pages, is before you even really get into the vocabulary and the practice and what it means, they write the vocabulary word and they rate on a scale of 1 to 3. Before they read, how well do they know the word? After they read, how well do they know the word?
Where do you get these teachers' guides?
They are all, they talk to us. They're all available on the New Readers Press online website itself, as well as we can make sure to get you a copy. So yes.
This is very basic, but I only have an electronic version.
It is only electronic. So the teacher's guide does not come in a print version.
My student only has we only have electronic versions.
We can get you hard copies.
Material.
We can get you hard copies. Talk to me afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
The teacher's manual is only electronic,
Correct.
but there is a student book
Yes, and we can absolutely get you hard
Okay.
copies. And our students, this is a relatively new change in our program, maybe 6 or 9 months ago, I can't remember. Students are allowed to keep and write in their books.
Okay.
We ask that tutors do not, so we can reuse them after
Yeah.
you're done. So talk to me afterwards. I'll make sure to get your information down.
Right.
Just to clarify, you just said that students can write in the books now?
That is correct.
Wow, okay.
Yes, yeah. So if that is new information for you, I am sorry. From now on, write in those books for those students. Those are them for them to keep and them to write in.
Mm.
All right, now we're going to get into the lesson plan itself. I am going to kind of briefly review what these lesson plans look like, how you can access them, whatnot, as well as, I think I have an introduction. Yeah, so we're going to review the lesson plan site as we went over in the opening remarks. We're just going to dig into it a little bit more. We're going to go over an example lesson plan and how they're structured. We're going to go over the tutoring routine and how you can use it. And then I'm going to give everybody, depending on how much time we have, somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes. I have copies of a lesson plan as well as pages of a book that I want you to just look through and think about, you know, is there anything that you might need to adapt for your students? Are there questions that you have about how these lesson plans are laid out? So that's going to be part of this next section as well. So first, we're going to get into the lesson plan site a little bit more. And I remember now that I have to reshare my screen. So this is the lesson plan site again that we reviewed. So you are going to click on whatever level you use for Journey to Success.
Oh, excuse me, I missed the introduction. Where do I find the lesson plan site?
Where's the link?
Oh, I had the link in the slideshow itself.
No, I mean,
What?
what?
Yeah,
is
but
the-
where do we get it in the future?
Oh,
It
cancel.
will
Hold on.
come out on Monday in the,
It's later than Monday. It's gonna come. The next tutor newsletter. That's part of my last slides about the
Okay.
rollout. The
Alright.
next tutor newsletter is going to have information about how to access the site.
Okay.
We need a couple.
Okay, thank you.
Everything is like in line before we like fully make it available.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so information is coming. Sorry for misunderstanding the question.
Okay.
We will keep you posted. Next tutor
Okay.
newsletter. I'm going to be focusing on Journey to Success 6 because that's the lesson plan that I have printed out. But again, all you have to do is just click on whichever level you are using with your student. And then you can see this is where it's separated by those units. And just as a quick reminder, unit 1 is always work and life skills. Unit 2 is always social studies. Unit 3 is science, and unit 4 is literature. So I'm going to just show you an example unit, and then you can see it's separated by lesson. So all you have to do is just keep looking in your book. What lesson am I doing this week? I'm doing lesson 4 and 5. Great. And click on lesson 4. And hopefully it'll open.
this looks really great.
Thank you. All right, so here's an example. Here's an example lesson plan. So again, click on your book and then your unit and then whichever lesson plans you have to do for that week. So at the top is just a general breakdown of what book level you're looking at. What are the pages in the student textbook? And then the ABE level, you don't really have to worry about. That's more internal. And then what the theme is. The theme is also just the title of the lesson itself. The lesson goals or lesson objectives. So from book down to before you meet is really just for you to review. So review and maybe think about things that you need to prepare beforehand. The lesson itself starts during the lesson. So those are the things that you're going to be doing with your student. So again, the lesson goals, so those are the objectives for the lesson. So at the end of the lesson, the student will be able to identify the main idea of a paragraph and of an entire article.
I'm sorry, I'm
Yes.
confused. Is this something we prepare or are these pre?
These are pre-prepared.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have lesson plans for all of Journey to Success. pre-prepared for you to use. I want to point out every tutoring group is different. Every student is different. No lesson plan is going to be perfect for every student. So yes, these are created. Yes, these are based on the book. You still might have to adapt them for your student depending on what they need. Maybe they need a little bit of extra vocabulary practice. Maybe they need a little, like, need to reread a couple times. So again, these are suggestions. I still want you to think about how you can best use these for your students. So these are the lesson goals. And then it's just a list of what the vocabulary is for these pages, which you can also find on the first page of the lesson itself. Some language structures that go over the lesson. And then the before you meet in the materials are a couple of things that you'll have to like really look over before you meet with your student, which is making sure that you read through the pages that you're going to be going over with your student. Make sure you read through the teacher's guide pages of those. And there might be a couple extra things that you want to do with your student. So for the writing, you can always, like, the student is welcome to write in their book. If you're doing this virtually, there's not a really great way for you to see what they wrote. It's like maybe take a picture and send it to you. So for some students, they like to use something like Google Docs, so they can, like, you can actively see what they're typing and you can correct it together. Just an option. And then the before you meet is just another real quick, like, what you have to prepare before you meet with your student. During the lesson, this is when you really get into, I am meeting with my student and this is what I'm doing with them. For those who have used Journey to Success, that you know that a single lesson is quite long. You know, it includes vocabulary, 2 different readings, comprehension questions, a writing. We are not asking you to do that all in one day. That is not a single day worth of materials. Right now, we have it broken up into 2 days worth of lessons. However, don't rush. If you need to make it 3 days for your students, that is not a problem. It's better to repeat things and review it than to rush through. So the way that we have it broken out is that day 1, and I'm gonna stop.
I'm a big fan of stretching things out over
Oh, for sure, yeah.
multiple lessons. Going slow is good.
Sometimes they want to go quickly and I'll let them, and then like, okay, we'll go back now.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you this routine document because this goes like hands in hand with the actual lesson plan. So this routine document breaks down the different sections that you can find in that during the lesson part, in a recommended amount of time that you should be focusing on that with your student. Again, totally recommended, not like a hard and fast rule. So it always starts with getting started. That's going to include just chatting with your students, general rapport, maybe reviewing any homework that was assigned if there was. I do have it written in here that like this is a time that you're going to get to know your student. And this is the time that they might share things that you may or may not know how to handle. I always recommend, we are not asking any of you to be caseworkers in any sort of way. Please let your coordinator know if your student shares something with you, that we have like a lot of resources available for our students. So if you hear something when you're getting to know your student during the general chatting time, please let your coordinator know, because it might be something we can help with. So then it moves on to a really quick introduction and goals. So you're going to be going, let me see if I can go back and forth between 2 different things. Just going to test my skills with the computer. So lesson introduction and goals. So you're going to say, today we're going to focus on this. These are the goals for today. So just introducing what you're going to be working on with the student. I already had that open. Whoops.
I don't know if you need to reshare your screen, or if it's all on the one web page, it should be fine.
Everyone on Zoom, can you see, does this say the tutoring routines right now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because it's all on Chrome, I thought it would be fine, but yeah, just to make sure. So this is the routine. This is just an explanation of what you should be working on, as well as like the time that's recommended. So These first couple things are going to be relatively quick, the getting started, the lesson introduction goals. The warm-up activity for day one is going to be the vocabulary. So you're going to be looking at the first page of the unit, talking about whatever the new topic is, going over the vocabulary words, potentially using that like rate your knowledge charts, as well as the second page is usually like writing sentences based on the vocabulary word. So that's the warm-up. And then the review is, you're going to be reviewing the pre-reading skills at the top of the page. I'm going to go over this relatively quickly because what I want you to do afterwards is really dig into a lesson and look at these things. And then, so this is separate into I do, we do, you do. That is like Literacy Pittsburgh's model of, so as a teacher, I first present something and then we do it together. And then you do something on your own to practice those skills. So that's a quick explanation of that. So again, this is a breakdown of day one, you're working on the vocabulary and the first reading. And then day two is similar. Some of the times have changed because day two, you're working on reading two, but you're going to be doing it a little bit faster than day one. And you're also going to be doing writing. So that is a breakdown of what you're going to be doing day one and day two. Let me go back. All right. All right, so as I mentioned, the top is that basic information. The middle section of the first page is just additional lesson information. And then during the lesson is where you should refer to that routine if you have questions about timing or anything of that nature. And this is the rest of that lesson. So you can see this is day one and then day two. There's a quick tutoring reflections down at the bottom, like how did the lesson go? Is there anything that I need to change or work on? And then this is just the same thing we went over. So this is that tutoring routine that breaks down day one and day two into suggested times. Again, suggested. So this is like a little thing at the bottom that, oops. This is a little like statement at the bottom that like every student is different. These are like, please adjust the time for whatever makes sense for your student. Before we get into the next part, which is going to be like 10 minutes of sort of independent looking through a lesson, looking through the pages of the book, before we start that part, does anybody have any questions? Questions about getting to like accessing the lesson plan site and like navigating it? Questions about anything?
That looks like a great resource.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
I have a question about when they finish the book. Is there a quiz, a test, or do we just move on to the next book? And from whom do I get the next book?
Yeah, good question, Kelly. So tests are not based on how, like on finished books, it's based on hours of tutoring. So we give our students new tests every 60 hours of tutoring. So it's hard to say whether or not that would be like from one book to another. It's really based on time. So I can't answer that concretely. But as far as getting a new book, Kelly, who is your program coordinator?
Is that the same as supervisor?
Miguel. Miguel, okay. So you can talk to Miguel and just say, we have finished this book. Can we get the next one? And we'll have them mailed out to you and your student.
Okay, thank you.
Hannah,
Hold on just one second, Ellen. I'll get to you next. What was that?
I thought like one of the levels was, you didn't have to go through all of them to get to the GED. Or do you just wait till you do the test and then that tells you?
Based on the testing is when we decide if a student is ready to take the GED ready, which is the practice test.
Mhm.
And then based on how they do on that, we can tell you that you need 25 more hours of tutoring, you need
No,
so
that I
on,
know.
yeah.
But the levels of the books, you don't need to get to level 7 to take the.
Not necessarily, no, not necessarily, yeah. Ellen, you had a question?
I did. These look like they're PDFs, so we can't add or modify.
Okay, so they are PDFs. So, you can, online, unless you have like Adobe Acrobat or something like that, no, they are not modifiable. We did this as like sort of a fail-safe method, so things weren't accidentally deleted or changed. However, if you print them, you're welcome to write on them. And if that is something that you want, but you can't do at home, like feel free to get in contact with me and we can work something out.
There are
Yeah,
also
I
ways-
guess what I'm thinking is sometimes I like to like break it up with a game or extra grammar
Sure.
things, and it looks like there's not much space. Like if there was only a line or two where we could write something in,
That is true.
it looks
Laurel-
pretty packed.
It is pretty packed. So Laurel just said something about being able to add things on Google Docs. Can you say that again, Laurel?
I have figured out ways to make changes to PDFs without buying software. If you use Google Docs, you
I
can
do.
upload the PDF into Google Docs like as a Word document. And sometimes it comes out a little funky, but that's a way to, and you can even upload them as PDFs, and sometimes you can make edits that way because there is a PDF reader in Google Docs. That's
Okay,
something that you could maybe meet with your coordinator over Zoom and go maybe work on that, or Christina, or.
Yeah, Ellen, let me play around with that too, because I think that you are not going to be the only tutor who wants to be able to do that. So let me play around with that, and we'll certainly let tutors know best ways that they can edit their own PDFs and not the PDFs that are on the site itself.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
I think Lucy's trying to.
Any other questions?
I think Lucy.
Lucy, can you unmute yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. No wonder nobody's hearing me. I have a question about, I meet with my student via Zoom. And the one area that I've just not been able to do anything with her in Journey to Success, which I find a wonderful book. It's, at first I used that other book. I can't remember they're doing Breakout Rooms with that other book, which I found completely useless. But Step Up, completely useless for this student, but this one is great. But the writing exercises are really difficult to do over Zoom. And she doesn't seem to understand, if I ask her if her tablet has Word or some other word processing kind of program, she doesn't seem to understand what I mean. And the only way she can seem to, communicate writing with me is through an email, which is not very good. I don't know if there's any tech person that you have that can kind of, on a one-to-one basis, talk to her to try to figure out, what kind of what kind of tablet she has.
Yeah. So good, great news. We have digital literacy instructors at Literacy Pittsburgh. So we have open digital literacy times that students can come in and meet with these instructors and just talk about, whatever tech issues they're having. There's also structured classes that meet about certain programs or certain skills. So
Can she do it on Zoom? She does not drive. She will not go in downtown. I mean, this woman is really housebound with 5 children. Is there digital?
It is possible. I will say that learning new tech skills over technology is hard.
I know.
But it's possible, and our digital literacy instructors would be like the best people to do that anyway. So do you have a pen, Laurel? I can bring one. You want one? Yeah, I am. I should have grabbed a pen. So, so I am happy to email anybody who needs information about digital literacy. So, Lucy, what's your last name?
Fisher, Fischer.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was excited to see it, but then I saw it in person and I went, that's not gonna happen, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's not going anywhere. She doesn't drive and she has 5 kids at home. That's one of the major problems I experience with her.
Let me
But yes,
check in on that and I'll be in touch for sure.
okay, thanks, because, maybe there's a way that somebody could talk to her about, she must have a word processing program on this tablet,
At the very least, Google Docs. Google Docs
Yeah.
is use it over the internet.
Right. Okay. So she could just go to www.google Docs or something. And yeah, I've had trouble figuring out, what she has or how she could access it. She also can't seem to figure out how to do an attachment, on an email. So
I think she would really benefit from some digital literacy classes, and I
yeah.
to see if any are offered over there.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm glad you handed that out.
Actually, I think that's a more general issue too.
Yeah.
I've been having trouble teaching my student writing over Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't teach him how to use digital means of creating and sending me documents.
For sure. I just handed the pen back. Laurel, can you write down for me? I think that would be a really good topic for a tutor talk.
Yeah.
Is like online writing skills.
I almost feel like it, maybe Christina or somebody has done one.
I thought so.
I think
It
so.
has been done. It has been done.
I think it can be done again.
I will say that I ask my students to
I
read what
need
she writes,
scaffolding.
Oh, that's a good idea.
and that ends up actually being more effective to me than writing.
What?
I
They
have
hear
to read
themselves
what
say
she
it.
writes.
And they hear their mistakes.
Right, exactly.
Oh,
Mhm. That's a good idea.
And edit as she speaks
oh, that's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Have them just go ahead and write it out.
and read it.
and read it.
But you can't easily correct, or talk about the grammatical points when it's read to you. I mean, that's, and I know that you don't want to start correcting every single thing, but there's
Well, they
something to
Write
be,
it and send it later.
yeah. Well, but they have to know how to send it. That's
Yeah,
the point.
Again, some digital literacy classes may be needed. All right, I just for time's sake, I'm gonna move on to the next part, which is just gonna be reviewing a lesson plan. I'm gonna give, at this point, you don't have to get into great detail with it or anything. So I'm gonna give everyone about 5 to 10 minutes to look over a lesson plan and look over the pages of the book. Oh, I wanted to say, because I'm gonna have Laurel pause the recording until we start talking again. If anybody is watching this as a recording later on and wants to participate, we're reviewing Journey to Success 6, Lesson 2. And those are the textbook pages 18 through 27 and the teacher's guide pages 12 to 15. So again, if anybody is watching this as a recording, those are the pages that we're about to review. So everyone on Zoom, I emailed these documents yesterday, and Laurel also just put them in the chat so you can access them. And then people in person, thank you. So I'm going to give a general sort of question time if we have time, but I just want to check in about when you were looking through this lesson plan, what are your general thoughts? Do you have questions about its layout? Do you have ideas of how maybe you would need to adapt it for your student? Or did it make perfect sense and you're good?
We like to make charts breaking down the vocabulary words with the root words and the suffixes and prefixes, and that tends to help her. Whereas I don't know if they have that kind of chart.
I wonder if we could do some basic templates of things on the lesson plan site.
Yeah.
Just as like a resources and be like, Sure.
That's Christina and I, like,
Okay.
6 months from now goal. But yeah, I think as those are some things that you might be able to find in the back of the teacher's guide as well, and those reproducible. So again, any thoughts? How about anyone who's on the Zoom call? Did you get a chance to look through it? What did you think of this lesson?
And I like it, but it seems like it's for new tutors, like it tells you every single thing to do. I guess I like bullets better. Like, when I do my own lesson plans, I just want a couple bullets, like what do I want to remember to do? So this is like a lot of reading while you're trying to teach.
So I completely hear that, Ellen, and we did want to make sure that these lesson plans, like someone could come right out of training and immediately be able to use them. So there is a lot of like, say this, do this, like some like things that are might be pretty intuitive if you've been tutoring for a while. So, as you're using these, if there's like sections that like exactly what you need to say, it's not a requirement to follow it word for word or anything like that. Again, these are to help you. These are suggestions. This is like, we're hoping it'll save you time. But if you want to phrase it differently for your student or your group, or you want to like rearrange things, that's not a problem.
I feel like I would also just go through with a highlighter and just, highlight the, the parts that I wanted to catch my eye as like my bullet pointing versus retyping or reformatting.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. That would probably be a good thing to do. And then I do have a question. In the optional practice, you have seed links and document on Google Drive for YouTube video on coding. What's that referring to?
That's a really good question. Hold on. I need to look at that. 1 second.
Yeah, it's like the 4th bullet under optional practice on, I guess, page 3.
I know that we're working on having like an additional document that's like a resource document. So it might be that link. I don't know. Like I won't
Okay.
look into it. So if there's like ever something that like, especially in optional practice, because again, when you read over, we have 45 seconds left, by the way, everyone, just FYI. So like with optional practice, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's optional. These are just extra things that you could do with your student if you're looking for extra practice. So that one in particular, I'm not sure, and I'll look into it. But just FYI for optional practice, it's not something that you're like required to do as part of the lesson. We have 15 seconds. Thank you so much, everybody. I will be around later if you have questions. Everybody, my email is hgerby@literacypittsburgh.org. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions that we couldn't answer. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone who has rejoined the main room. We're going to take just a short break while I recreate the breakout rooms for session 2. And that will take just a few minutes. That session starts at 11:05. But I will probably open those rooms up in just 3 or 4 minutes, however long it takes me. So just hang tight and we'll be with you in a minute. Okay, the breakout rooms are open, so feel free to join the breakout rooms that you chose. If you have any issues, if you can unmute yourself and let me know if you're having a problem.
Hi, I'm not seeing the breakout rooms on my screen. Oh, they just came up.
Did they? Okay, good. All right,
Thank you.
great.
Whoops, okay.
I have a question about the breakout rooms.
Sure.
It's right now, I don't have the original schedule in front of me and I'm only seeing a partial title for each room, so I can't tell. Getting comfortable, what is that?
That was getting comfortable. Hang on one second.
And then,
Getting comfortable teaching math.
oh, okay.
And then
And the
there's
other-
grammar for citizenship, career exploration and resources, or teaching advanced conversation and vocabulary.
Oh, okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I'll mute myself again.
Hello. I had the same problem last time, but my computer doesn't have the option to choose the breakout rooms.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what's your name?
Lauren, Teresi,
Okay. And which one did you want?
the citizenship one, please.
Okay. Hang on just a second, and you should see a message to join.
Okay,
And that's grammar for citizenship, correct?
correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Is anybody else having an issue?
Is this the next session you're talking about then?
Yes, this is session 2. Yeah.
Okay, well, I need to sign in then to it.
Okay, do you see the 3 dots at the bottom where it says more? If the breakout rooms aren't already on your screen, if you click on the more with the 3 dots above it, it should pull up breakout rooms.
I do not see it.
Okay, so Cheryl, give me just 1 minute. What room would you like to be in?
I think it was for intermediate reading or something like that.
Okay, so for the session 2 choices are getting comfortable teaching math, grammar for citizenship, career exploration resources, or teaching advanced conversation.
Teaching advanced conversation.
Okay, and you'll see something pop up on the screen that will say join.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The sessions will start at 11:05. Is anybody else having a problem getting into their breakout room? If you are, if you could unmute yourself and let me know. Thanks. Betty, I just saw your message that you can't see the breakout rooms. What room if you could chat, which room you'd like to be in?
Hello?
Hi, Betty.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Okay, Betty, what session were you supposed to be in? That doesn't start for a couple minutes, but I can put you in the room that you
Okay.
chose.
There are two things, right?
Well, session 1 is over. That ended.
Yes, I did that. I did
Oh, you
that.
did that one already. Okay,